What the Penguins are doing is downright terrifying, as we've officially learned the truth as to why Mike Sullivan walked away from the organization, and we finally have some insight into who will be the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it will change the entire culture of the entire organization. We got to break it all down in this episode of Penguins Digest, because this is going to get Penguins fans absolutely riled up, fired up, whatever you want to call it. But before we do that, we want you to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your Pittsburgh Penguins, be sure to hit that free subscribe button down below. And again, get to stay up to date with every little thing that's happening with this team, because Mark, we all know it's going to be a very busy offseason. They still have a coach to hire, and that's what we're going to get into in this video. But before we get to that, we have to touch on Mike Sullivan and his departure, because we do have some new insight into what happened there, and I'm curious for your thoughts on this as well. And this is an article from Jim Parsons, but the report comes from Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet, and he said that as to why the Penguins moved on from Mike Sullivan, he said, "I believe at the end of the day, Mike Sullivan and Kyle Dubas saw it differently on how long it would take to make the Penguins a contender again. And by all accounts, reports over the last couple of days, I mean, we covered it initially when it first happened. There was different reports at the time as to, why this happened. And, Kyle Dubas thought that he was making the right move. And, every GM thinks that they're making the right move in the betterment of the team. But it sounds to me like Kyle Dubas thinks he can turn this around very quickly, get them in the playoffs as soon as next year. And I just feel like, reading between the lines here with these new reports, Mike Sullivan did not believe that, and he wants a new challenge, and he wants to be able to coach a team that could make the playoffs next year. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think maybe I'm reading that wrong? But I do think that's kind of what we're seeing right now, that I think both people here had a different vision for the team, and I feel like Sullivan's saying to Kyle Dubas essentially in walking away, I don't think you know what you're doing.
And I mean, the big thing is, listen, if you want to rebuild and you're a coach, or retool, which is the option that we both agree on, and a lot of fans agree on, that retooling is right. If your coach doesn't agree, you're going to have to part ways. Listen, Mike Sullivan was loved by most, 90% of Penguins fans. But if he's looking in the sense of, hey, I don't want to follow what Kyle Dubas wants to do, the personnel you're going to bring in doesn't fit what I want, then moving on is the only choice you have. And it really sucks. This is a guy that we wanted to see follow through the entire Crosby era to end it out, maybe win another championship. But I'm guessing Mike Sullivan's going to head on to a new contender. And it does really open up the opportunities to bring in a coach that's maybe more fitted for a young team, a faster team, a team that's looking to maybe make some noise. The Montreal Canadiens are a young team that's currently battling in the first round of the playoffs. So maybe the Penguins get some young guys in, get some guys that have more to prove and really make the next jump. And maybe Sullivan was just not the one to do it with.
Absolutely. And I think most of us can agree that what Kyle Dubas is saying is the correct course of action. I think it is right to retool on the fly here, especially when you have Sidney Crosby, Malkin, Karlsson, Letang, just to name a few guys. That is the correct course of action. But I think Mike Sullivan saw it a different way and said, it's not going to happen as fast as you think it's going to happen, and I don't want to stick around to deal with that anymore. So that's what it is. They had to make a decision that was best for the team. But now there's other reports that Sidney Crosby, and again, it's all speculation at this point, not official reports, but might not be pleased with the organization's decision to move on. We know that Sidney Crosby doesn't like change. Mike Sullivan's been his head coach for the last 10 years. He's obviously won, 2 Stanley Cups with him. So Kyle Dubas went on to say that he called Sidney Crosby on Sunday morning to give him the heads up, and I had a 5-minute conversation with him. I have to do what's best for the organization. And he went on to say, because he was getting really pressed, Kyle Dubas this is, by the media in that media scrum about how Sidney Crosby feels about it. And he said, I can't speak for Sidney, but, he seems to be okay with it, and he gave him the heads up. Do you think there's going to be any friction here? Because I think that, this could get very interesting depending on, and we'll get to it in a second, who they hire as the head coach, because there's a couple options I think that will work well with a guy like Sidney Crosby, but you also have to consider the fact that the team is getting younger, and you have to pick a guy that can work with younger players. So do you think this is going to create any type of friction with Sidney Crosby and management?
I mean, the big thing is, listen, Crosby wants to compete. He's getting to almost 40, 3-4 years out. Yeah. He's going to be with this team for at least 2 more years, so he's going to want to compete. Do I ever see him leaving? No, there's no chance. He's going to retire as a Penguin unless Kyle Dubas forces him out, which he's not going to do. So yes, there might be some butting heads between management and Crosby figuring this out. But I think Crosby understands he won his cups. He's been successful. He's been the most dominant player in our generation. So I think he understands at this point, you do a quick retool, try to compete next year. If you want a new extension in a couple of years, Crosby, you can continue to do this. But I think Dubas really needs to look at the future of this team because Crosby's window is only what? 4 to 5 years from this point before he's officially out of the league. And they can't be stuck in the situation with having old guys that can't compete anymore or having, and not saying Crosby can't compete, but older guys that you try to pick up to open the window again, like we've seen them try, and be stuck with absolutely nothing for the future.
Yeah, I mean, this retool has to last a year or two to get them back in the playoffs. It can't go longer. It can't go 3 years. It can't go 4 years. It's just a non-option at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see who they end up hiring as the head coach. And now we have 8 possible replacements, and we're not going to dive into all 8 of them in this video. We're just going to pick a few from this article by Kelsey. Go check out the article. It's a great article and some really, really good options in this article. But again, we're just going to cherry pick a few. And one of them is David Carl. And he's been thrown around a lot lately. He does coach in the NCAA. He's actually younger than Sidney Crosby as well. So let's keep that in mind as well. But he was interviewing and in the process of possibly becoming the Chicago Blackhawks head coach. He's since, dropped out of that. That's not going to happen. He's not going to become the coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. So he is still available. I think this could be an interesting hire in way of he knows how to, work with younger players. He is a young guy himself, but I don't think with the dynamic of this team the way it is right now, a guy coming in to be your head coach who's younger than your captain will work. And not just younger than your captain. When your captain is Sidney Crosby, I don't think that's going to work. I mean, I don't think Crosby should be teaching the coach the ropes and kind of showing him the ropes and stuff like that. So what do you think about this potential move? Because I think this one's unlikely. It might work if the Penguins did a full-on rebuild and shipped everybody out, but I don't think it works with the current dynamic of the team.
I think this would be the perfect signing 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when Crosby leaves this team and you go into your complete rebuild. This doesn't make sense. Like you said, if your captain of your team is a few years older, and yes, this guy has an experience. We've seen him in college. He was outstanding as a coach. But I don't think it makes sense for a team that's trying to make that jump into contending again. As I said, he makes more sense on a team looking to grow a young core. Chicago obviously is not going to work. Anaheim is a team. The San Jose Sharks, they're locked up. These teams make more sense. But right now, I don't think it makes any sense for the Penguins to get someone without any experience in the league.
Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense right now, right? It could make sense down the road. But again, he's a very good coach, and some team I think is going to lock him up this summer, and I don't know if it's going to be long term, but again, he has a pretty good track record in the NCAA, and he won gold with Team USA in the World Junior Hockey Championships, and he was, that team was led by guys like Gabe Pro of the New York Rangers, Ryan Leonard, Washington Capitals, so he has experience, coaching really good young talent. So the next option here, and I'm going to throw it over to you, Mark, is Erik Tocchet, which I think is, first of all, very interesting for Penguins fans because he used to coach in Pittsburgh as an assistant coach, won a Stanley Cup, of course, as a player as well. So this could be an interesting fit as a head coach. How do you feel about Erik Tocchet potentially being the Penguins head coach? Because I think as of yesterday, with him not, going back to Vancouver, he's not going to re-up. I think things just got very interesting, and I wonder if Erik Tocchet actually shot up to number 1 on the Penguins list here.
I mean, the big thing is we've seen him in his exit meeting or just a statement he had when he turned down the Canucks head coaching job after not qualifying his extension. He said he wants to go out east. He wants to head home closer to his family. He coached with the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. This guy makes the most sense, in my opinion. We've seen him join a Canucks team, 2 years ago? The team wasn't the best when he first joined, but he propelled them into a Western Conference second-round team just last season. He knows how to get the most out of his veterans. He plays a great defensive game. So if you want Tristan Jarry to look better than he is, and I know it's not that hard to do because sometimes he's terrible, but Erik Tocchet's system would work perfect. If you inject a bunch of these veterans, top-end talent, you still have Erik Karlsson, you still have Letang on the back end. But adding young guys to a Erik Tocchet system, I think makes a lot of sense. And he really knows how to get the best. He's well-respected. We've seen a lot of players from the Canucks side actually come out and talk about how much they respect him as a coach, how much he motivates them. So a team looking to get back into contention, I think this makes the most sense out of most of the coaches that hit the open market, and that might be a hot take.
I think it could be a hot take, but at the same time, I think you make a lot of really good points in terms of, he knows how to get the most out of his veterans. He knows how to coach younger guys as well. And the system thing. I think that if you can somehow, if you look at a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning a couple of years ago, they were exposed by the Toronto Maple Leafs in a certain way, shooting from the point, getting deflections, stuff like that. And they were exposed in the playoffs. I feel like every team is doing the same thing to Tristan Jarry. If you can build a defensive structure around him like the Tampa Bay Lightning did, like other teams like the Boston Bruins do, for example, because we're seeing with Allmark right now, not working out as well in Ottawa as it did in Boston, right? So if you can build something like that around your goaltending, because we know it's going to be hard to move off of, your goaltending right now if you want to retool that, I think it's a really good option. So I think that he just shot up the list, that's for sure, because he wasn't an option before. He's definitely there now. And the last guy we'll touch on is Jay Woodcroft, who hasn't been in the league for a while at this point, right? Obviously, had a good run, I think, with the Edmonton Oilers, but obviously when things didn't kick off when they started 3-9-1 to start the 2023-24 season, obviously he was fired, and then they went on to the Stanley Cup final. But I do think that he is a really good coach. Again, he knows how to coach higher end talent. He knows how to coach younger guys as well. How do you feel about this fit? I think this could be another good one, because I could see him working with Sidney Crosby, Evgeni Malkin, some of these guys who are established on the team, and also being able to talk to and work with the younger players on the team, which I think is the whole dynamic here. I think you need somebody that can do both, but I just don't know if he has the experience or is as stern as a Rick Tocchet. So I do think that he's still below him on my list at least, but how do you feel about this one as well?
I mean, it seemed like everyone on the Oilers loved him. They were almost blindsided by the fire, and yes, starting 3-9-1. The team going on to make the finals, it's not a great look for him, but he got the best out of his talent. Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman's outstanding under his system as well. These guys really loved him, and the fans loved him. It was a blindsided fire, and I'm kind of shocked he didn't get a job since then. I think the big thing with the Penguins, you go for the big guns. You go out for a Rick Tocchet type coach. You go out for someone like that. If that falls through, Tocchet goes to Philly, which is disgusting. Let's not even talk about the Flyers. But if he goes to a different team and you're starting to scramble, I think Jay would be almost a great fit as a consolation prize for the Penguins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we'll see what ends up happening. We don't know what Rick Tocchet's thinking. We don't know if he wants to come back to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, it could make some sense. He's coached here before. The Penguins are on the East Coast. He wants to go to the East Coast. It could make a lot of sense, right? So, again, that's why I'm thinking that he shot up the list here. But a guy like Jay Woodcroft, I don't think I would mind that. I don't know how Penguins fans feel about it. Of course, let us know in the comments. We always want to hear what you guys have to say down there in the comments about any of these options. Let us know about Jay Woodcroft, obviously Rick Tocchet, and any other coach that you'd like to see, even David Carr. I don't think it's going to happen, but let us know in the comments what you think. And, of course, what happened with Mike Sullivan, because, as the days go on, we're getting more and more details. Some insiders are coming out with some new stuff, and it looks like it was, you could call it a firing, maybe a mutual, splitting there, but it seems to me like they did not agree with their vision for the team and the future of this team, which could be a little bit troubling for how management is, going about the construction of this team. But we want to hear what you have to say in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Pittsburgh Penguins.